The murder charges were increased against one of the Minneapolis police officers, new charges against three others. Talk about the progression of this situation, how charging changes, and why there was that evolution, if you will, in the course of that first week.
Well, the evolution in the course of the charges, Jeff, is something you see in many cases. We can't have a rush to judgment where prosecutors bring charges immediately without having done the necessary investigation to figure out what are we going to charge somebody with. So in this case, they originally charged the main officer with third-degree murder, but then they upgraded it, no doubt, as more information came in, and also ended up charging the other three. Now, what does that do as a legal standard? The closer you get, third degree, second degree to first degree, the more intent to kill you have to prove. Reckless disregard for human life, a murder occurring in the course of an assault, as what happened here. Those are things a jury can consider if you've got, for example, a second degree charge. But then those other three, the officers, I mean, they're charged with aiding and abetting, and that's especially with two of them only having been on the job for a couple of days. Jeff, can you imagine that? A couple of days on the job, and this is what you're faced with. That is more challenging to prove than, of course, the charges against the heavy.
And it may have been surprising to some when the Minnesota Attorney General, the former Congressman Keith Ellison, who took over the case, announced all of these charges and said this is going to be a very difficult case to prove. Some might have said, well, there's the video, we see it, but it's not quite that simple, is it?
No, because can you just look at that video and say this officer intended to kill Mr. Floyd? Many people would look at that and say, yes, this officer woke up in the morning and said, I'm going to kill somebody today. But your typical juror isn't going to think that, even though they're going to be horrified beyond belief as to what happened. More likely, they may see a horrific assault that went way beyond the amount of minutes that would have been necessary, if any amount would have been necessary, to subdue Mr. Floyd, who was on the ground handcuffed. So it's that analysis that's causing some people to say it's a harder burden to prove than we might think, to prove that this officer was intentionally trying to kill Mr. Floyd. As awful as that video is, that's what the Attorney General was talking about.